It's 11:11. Make a wish.
Welcome to Hacking Hypermobility Podcast.
I'm Luna.
And I'm Shelli.
And we're two bendy mamas
hacking hypermobility.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to another installment of Hope I'm Alive. I had a bunch of surgeries, and I'm going to tell you about it. This week's episode is going to be a little bit, I don't want to say different from the others, because I've only had two, and those were a hot mess. But if you consider the topics that I was discussing, alexithymia and bottom-up processing, you could see why I would have trouble doing such things. Today's letter is C. I am going in order. It's the autism. Sorry, not sorry. Anyway, C is for complicated. And living with all of these conditions is complicated. So complicated.
Hi, I'm Luna, and in today's news segment, we are spotlighting a compelling new documentary that delves deep into the challenges faced by individuals like us with Ehlers-Danlos syndromes, or ADS. The film, aptly titled Complicated, offers an intimate look into the lives of those navigating this complex condition. It's directed by the award-winning filmmaker Andrew Abrams, co-produced by advocate Donna Sullivan. Complicated is the culmination of 7 years of their dedicated filming. The documentary focuses on young individuals grappling with EDS, an inherited connective tissue disorder that affects body's collagen, leading to symptoms ranging from joint hypermobility to cardiovascular complications. Notably, this film sheds light on the systemic challenges these patients face, including medical gaslighting, misdiagnoses, and the emotional toll of living with a usually invisible illness. One of the film's strengths is a very candid portrayal of the multifaceted nature of EDS. As personal narratives, viewers witness the rapid onset of debilitating symptoms, the frustration of navigating a medical system ill-equipped to handle complex chronic conditions, and the resilience of families advocating for proper care. Experts like Dr. Chopra and Dr. Maitland provide really valuable insights, emphasizing that EDS exists on a spectrum for some individuals with mild symptoms, while others face life-threatening complications. Complicated also addresses the broader implications of living with EDS, such as the increased risk of organ prolapse, urinary tract infections, and even complications during pregnancy. These insights underscore the necessity for heightened awareness, specialized care for those affected. For those interested in viewing Complicated, the documentary film is available for streaming through OpenEye Pictures platform. This film is a must-watch for anyone seeking to understand the intricate realities of EDS and the urgent need for systemic change in how we approach rare and complex medical conditions. And if you're looking for a fantastic resource to help navigate life with EDS and hypermobility disorders, I highly recommend checking out our friend Christy Calm. Christy is an incredible patient advocate who shares invaluable insights in all her years of research, practical tips, and a whole lot of support for those living with conditions. You can find her on social media, where she helps our community with education and encouragement, and check out our book too. That's all for today's news segment. Bye!
The episode that you're going to see is basically a video diary. And the first section is just a selection of videos that I chose from the time that I found out I had the tear in my hip officially found out in April of 2024. And then the diary goes all the way through September 25th, which is 1 week post-surgery. Next week, we will cover some of the PT exercises that I did initially after surgery. And I'm also going to talk about all of these different little things you see here. I have various tools, if you will. I'm also going to answer some more of your questions, and I have something else that I was going to say that I forgot. All right. One of the biggest issues regarding finding out what was up with my hip was actually figuring out that it was my hip, right? So I did not find out I had Ehlers-Danlos syndrome until I was officially diagnosed by the Johns Hopkins Ehlers-Danlos Clinic in November of 2021. I talk about this in the first season of the show. And basically what happened after I got diagnosed was everything that I had suspected was confirmed. And then they handed me a 17-page packet with a bunch of links and like random, it wasn't random, it's all very relevant information it just seemed very random at the time. Right. And so I took that and I was like, cool, I'm going to get fixed now. Notice I said that was November of 2021. So I had been seeing a rheumatologist at the time. And my recommendation to you, and this is coming just from my lived experience, this is not medical advice. So this is just in my experience. If you do not have a defined, definitive rheumatic problem, like if you haven't popped positive for lupus or rheumatoid arthritis or any of those things, that you have an official diagnostic evidence that you have that condition and that a rheumatologist treats it, and you've been having symptoms, but your blood work's always fine, like mine, I quit seeing a rheumatologist. That was just, you're about to hear why. So I got the diagnosis in November of 2021, and I had an appointment with my rheumatologist in January of 2022. And I mentioned my diagnosis. We talked a little bit about what that means. She was a very nice lady. She did not care, typically. She was kind of like, what do you want me to do about it? That was a little bit discouraging because I had spent all this time and energy to get the diagnosis, right? So I complained about my hips, my general body pain. I mean, it was my whole body. And at this point, I really hadn't gotten good at figuring out if it was muscular pain or if it was skeletal pain. Like, they would ask me in appointments, they're like, well, is it muscle pain, nerve pain? I don't know. I didn't know. I'm getting better at knowing now because I actually trust my body. In the past, I never trusted my body because I would go in and try to describe how I was feeling because I couldn't do it in a way that made sense to whatever provider was treating me. I basically didn't get care and was left feeling unseen, unheard. Those x-rays basically were like, it's fine. Here, actually, I have the results here. I pulled them all so that I could share them. Okay, so I had a bilateral hip x-ray. They had zero comparison. By the way, until I had a diagnosis, I never had any imaging on any parts of my body except for my brain. And that's going to be a separate episode. But I only ever had imaging if I had an acute injury. So like I was at the gym once and I had an acute injury in my back. They sent me for an x-ray. I did not have an MRI on any other body part until 2022. So basically the findings for my hip x-ray in January of 22 was nothing. So all it said was no acute fracture or dislocation of the bilateral hips, femoral heads are well seated, no significant arthropathy, bony pelvis is intact. And then it said no significant soft tissue swelling or foreign body. The end. You would think that's great. And so basically I was like, all right, I guess my issues that I'm feeling aren't my hips. And, I switched my exercise regimen after I got diagnosed. I started doing Pilates. I quit running a long time ago, but I really was doing my best to take care of my body. Other issues I was having during this time that had not been identified definitively. I was having trouble swallowing. I was having a lot of numbness. I was having a lot of nausea, migraines, but not the traditional sense of migraine. I didn't realize that I was actually having migraines because I always assumed migraines had like a headache component, but I was having more auditory migraines and like visual disturbances. So there was the swallowing issue, the visual disturbances, numbness, poor temperature regulation. I would have bouts of GI distress, either too fast or too slow, kind of like choose your own adventure based on whatever you decide to eat that day. And also when I would try to figure out if it was the things that I was eating try to establish a pattern, that wasn't even consistent. So it was very, very difficult. So I have all of these other things going on, plus body pain that's sort of narrowing down to get to an answer. I had a barium swallow test. That was fine. I didn't need that. I did eventually get a pain management specialist who I think is awesome. And first MRI, I had an MRI on my right shoulder just because of chronic pain. There were no huge findings in my right shoulder. I'm just going to read the conclusion. I did have subacromial and subdeltoid bursitis and in acromioclavicular, did I say that right? Joint osteoarthrosis, bone marrow edema. And so it said I have basically arthritis in my rotator cuff, I think is that joint. And it said it may be reactive. I have no significant tears or anything. So my right shoulder seems to be fine, except for like the few little issues. I sublux all the time. I probably should not be sleeping on my right side, but I do. I mean, it's either sleep on my right side or don't sleep. I sometimes sleep on my left. I've been trying to. My left shoulder is feeling worse. So I haven't had any imaging on that guy yet, but I'm hoping to. I didn't have a pelvis MRI until April of 2024. So I went through all of these other diagnostic things. I had lumbar spine MRIs. I started getting trigger point injections in the coat hanger area to deal with my neck and shoulder pain and my, basically the stiffness I would have there. I did a bunch of PT, which it was helpful, but all the while my hip issues remained unaddressed. And that was frustrating. It wasn't until I really started just hanging out in the hot tub like a capybara in early 2024, and I just lived on the heating pad. But after that, I was like, okay, something is up with my hip. I couldn't stand, couldn't sit, and I couldn't do Pilates anymore. So while I was dealing with hip pain all this time, it was getting to where I couldn't even do basic things. Like my quality of life has never been 100, but it was really, really like declining pretty quickly. And along with that, my mood. In April of 2024 is when I finally got some imaging done on my pelvis. And as I mentioned in a previous episode, we started with a basic pelvis MRI because that would give you the kind of a general picture before you dig in for the next. So here are the findings from my pelvis MRI. There is degenerative disc disease at L5 to S1, got edema, mild degenerative arthrosis at SI joints, mild subarticular marrow edema noted involving left more than the right, no evidence for fracture, good. There's no hip joint effusion, also good. There's no significant thinning within the hips, okay. Then it says, there's evidence for a right acetabular labral tear, incompletely evaluated. Bilateral hamstring tendon, then it goes on to talk about how most of my tendons are intact, talks about some fluid and looking like a cyst. It's physiologic. It's, I still have operating ovaries. They annoy me. Okay. So the impression was that there's no evidence for a tear in the hamstring, which was good, but there is evidence for the right acetabular labral tear. And then in the notes, it says you should get an MRI on your right hip. And then it also talks about the arthritis in my SI joints, left worse than right, and that I have degenerative disc disease, L5 to S1. Okay, cool. So shortly after that, I went in for the right side hip MRI. So the findings here, there is an extensive tear of the right acetabular labrum, extending from the anterior labrum into the posterior labrum. I didn't read the paragraph of findings. Okay, so from that, I got referred to my pain management guy is partnered up with the spine surgeon. So for this problem, even though my pain guy was treating me for my pain, he sent me over to a different orthopedic surgeon who specializes in hips, knees, shoulders. So I went to go see that doctor, and I had my first appointment with him at the end of May. And we did opt to do the 6 weeks of PT, mainly because of insurance, because I was quite aware that PT was not going to fix my issue because I couldn't do Pilates or basic PT moves comfortably. Or if I did, I was basically useless for the rest of the day. And finally, I would like to give a shout out to my husband and my beastie, Carolyn, who did some videoing for me. Also, gets a little heavy at the end of the video blog. This topic is, as we said, complicated.
Right. So I have a pretty massive labral tear in my right hip and also some bone marrow edema between L5 and S1 and some issues with my SI joints on both sides. I am a mess right now.
We are headed to my pain management doctor to get the results of my MRI, which I've already read, but we're going to hear what he has to say about it. And since it's Ehlers-Danlos and HSD Awareness Month, I'm going to be giving him this flyer to join Project Echo. I don't know if he will, but he listens and is very receptive to what we say, I would say. Would you agree? Yes. My husband does not want to be involved in this video. So if you don't know what EDS Echo is, it's Ehlers-Danlos Society partners with care teams and they talk about different cases. So I'm going to see if my doctor wants to get involved. In June, Carolyn graduated from high school and wanted to go on a beach trip, but not for as long as a week. And also, they weren't very interested in participating in the stereotypical beach week situation that a lot of teens partake in after they graduate from high school. And so the two of us came up with an idea to get a beach house at Ocean City the same time as senior week. And we would basically, our deal was I wanted to hang out in my room and do what I wanted to do. And I would be there if there were any situations that they felt that they weren't able to handle. And it worked out really, really well, except for the fact that I rented a condo on the 25th floor of this fantastic building. We had a great view of both the bay and the ocean, except for the night that the fire alarm went off. And what was crazy about that was that I had to put out a fire in our own apartment earlier that evening. I can't even remember what we were doing and why the fire started at this point. Seems like it was forever ago. It was just last June. But anyway, I had to go down 25 plus flights of stairs because of the fire alarm. And that was really hard. So you're going to hear some of that in the background here while I'm talking about this. That was tough. Driving there was also hard. Being in the car was hard. You're going to hear, the next month, Carolyn went and got their first tattoo and wanted me to sit with them, if it was cool with their artist. And I did. I went for the outlining session, which you can hear in the background now. And that was really hard. It was bright in there. It was loud. And I was just in pain. There was no way I could sit or stay. I just was not comfortable. And I'm wondering if a lot of my inability to handle social situations over the last few years was just heightened by the fact that I was in this pain and I didn't realize how much that was keeping me from enjoying things that I liked doing. I didn't go with Carolyn when they got the color added to the ink. And, I wish I'd had, but Carolyn also understood how painful it was for me to sit there. Yeah. Oh, wait, I thought I turned it off, but I didn't. But it's okay. I'm recording me, not you. But anyway, because I was cold earlier. Hi. So during the day, I hang out in this pillow fort and now he has to try to figure out where he's going to sit, even though there's a chair right there. Today's medical day extravaganza. Not really. It's just 2 appointments, but it's 2 doctors who haven't gotten the EDS Echo information yet. So I'm going to be passing that out. It's my GYN, which I think will be really important because he's the one who supported me to get my uterine ablation when I went in and begged for it because of what I used to call murder pants. And second appointment is my pre-op for my labral repair, which I'm having in 2 weeks. And that's the end of this video. Oh, I thought you turned the music off. Way to go, Marky Mark. Anyway, I always forget that my GYN is so freaking awesome and that I don't have to justify my existence or why I want or I'm asking for XYZ scan because he's just great. Anyway, I'm going to be getting a DEXA scan, my regular mammogram. My pre-op stuff is all set up. I'm scheduled to
have it on the 19th. I don't know what time yet. Have all of my instructions. I have my temporary disability placard, the application. I have the form. I don't have the placard yet. I have to go figure that out. And there were other things. I'm going to start a different vitamin D regimen. And I got blood work done at the GYN. They had it. I was at a different office down by the hospital. So they drew the blood there. And while I was talking to the phlebotomist about how awesomely she was drawing my blood, if you see this, you are awesome. I mentioned that I had other orders for blood work. And since it was kind of like a lab core within the doctor's office, I was like, hey, can I just come here and see you? And she was like, well, you could, except today's my last day. So that's a bummer. But then I was like, well, where are you going? And she said, oh, well, I'm a nurse. I passed my boards. I'm going to go be in family practice. To which I took it upon myself to pass along a business card and talk about the Ehlers-Danlos Society and patients like me. Sure. We can tell Alexa to set an alarm also.
Alexa, alarm for 5:30 a.m.
Alarm set for 5:30 a.m. tomorrow.
See you with a better hip. Awake. And I'm getting, I guess, my just pre-surgery clothes on. This is some creepy lighting. It's like Blair Witch Project. I slept really good. I didn't want to wake up. It's usually what happens when I have to be somewhere early in the morning. Does that happen to you? It is so early. I'm going to print the letter from Potts Clinic.
Also, I mentioned that I was going through a bunch of different tests and things during this time. One of the things that wasn't really apparent to me was the type of dysautonomia that I have. I'm not afflicted with traditional POTS. I suffer from what they call orthostatic intolerance, and that's where I can't be still. When I took my tilt table test, which if you are looking to get a definitive diagnosis of POTS and you have a POTS clinic nearby and they have someone, I'm so thirsty, and they have a person who could do the real deal tilt table test. There's two different kinds. I was strapped in. I can't remember what episode I talked about it, but that was something. I should do a whole episode on all of the crazy different tests I've had, because I did the barium swallow test while I was in all this pain. I did the emptying study. I did some vertigo stuff because I ended up getting COVID in 2023, which I think screwed up, my autonomic system and all of my balancing. It's just all of this together. It was a lot. So I will say, getting that tilt table test done, super helpful, because even though I didn't fail the test traditionally, in the traditional sense. I didn't pass out during the test. I did ask the nurse to punch me in the face. She wouldn't do it. First do no harm, right? Anyway, but what that did confirm was that the sensations that I knew were dysautonomia, whereas a different sensation than when I have some other feeling. Basically, for experimental purposes, I replicated the experiment. So from that point forward, what that did was that gave me the language to describe my future issues. Because prior to that, the way that I described it was like night sweats or but because of my age and my physiology, my anatomy that remains, I did have a uterine ablation, but I still cycle and have the hormones. They thought that everybody just wanted to write it off as perimenopause. So getting that test, replicating the experiment, and duplicating the sensations that I would feel based on positions that I was in, it confirmed it for me. And then I was able to actually become a patient at the Johns Hopkins POTS clinic, if you will, when it came to surgery time. And this was super helpful because I haven't been under general anesthesia. I haven't had a lot of surgeries until last year, but I had been under anesthesia a few times because of different issues with tooth extractions and colonoscopies and endoscopies. And when I had my uterine ablation in 2013, I had a very, very hard time with nausea after anesthesia. And what was really great was that this letter kind of gave me the backup to be like, you're going to need to give me extra fluids. You're going to need to just take this kind of care, make sure I don't have this nausea, this, that, and the other. If you don't have the language skills like I don't, I'm building them when it comes to this type of topic. I have great language skills in very specific areas, right? My ability to describe how I was feeling, there was a translation, a language gap, if you will, lost in translation. So this letter is super helpful. And here is what it says. Shelli is under the care of the Johns Hopkins Potts Dysautonomia Clinic. The subsequent letter is to assist those who may be involved in potential procedures and surgeries. At present, there is no consensus on the perioperative management in patients with pre-existing POTS/dysautonomia and hypermobility/EDS due to a lack of data in this field. Nonetheless, special attention should be drawn to these patients due to their unusual hemodynamic physiology. Pre-op considerations. 1. There is an increased incidence of hypermobility, diagnosed or otherwise, in POTS and dysautonomia. This is good if you don't have an official diagnosis on it. 2. Hypermobility/EDS is fairly common comorbid condition in POTS and dysautonomia patients, and they may be at higher risk of poor wound healing and excessive bleeding. 3. Prior surgical and hemostasis history should be reviewed. Medications that reduce platelet function or coagulation should be used in caution in the perioperative settings. Joint care is of particular importance due to higher incidence of joint instability and dislocations. NPO status can cause dehydration and worsen orthostatic symptoms. This may be ameliorated with 1 to 2 liters of supplemental IV saline given over 1 to 2 hours prior to surgery. When appropriate, consider continuing POTS medications the morning of surgery. So, if I needed it, I didn't need it because it's for different type of, my blood pressure wasn't so low. Anyway, operative considerations. Hypotension is a significant concern. Consider fluid boluses with crystalloid solutions to improve preload in patients who experience hypotension. In uncomplicated surgeries, the majority of patients require 2 to 3 liters of fluid. In patients with persistent hypotension, despite fluid resuscitation, phenylephrine infusion should be used as a first line due to its selective alpha. Okay, then it gets really, really, okay. So then it talks about vasopressin analogs could also be used as an alternative. There is no evidence to support one anesthetic agent over another. Similarly, no form of anesthesia was found to be superior in POTS patients. In patients with a high suspicion of Ehlers-Danlos, dermal wounds should be closed without tension, preferably in 2 layers, and deep stitches should be applied generously. Other post-op considerations. Monitor for causes of tachycardia, such as hypovolemia, anemia, hyperthermia, pain, anxiety, and all of the different reasons. It also said to be wary of signs of hemodynamic instability. POTS patients are more prone to deconditioning with prolonged immobilization. And then cutaneous stitches should be left in place twice as long as usual, which in my case, with my hand, we'll get into that later, but I actually had my skin growing over the stitches on my hand, and that was a little bit weird. Anyway, so then it goes on, and then she signs the letter. And this is just in my file, and I actually have it saved as a note in my phone.
Yeah. It smells like farts in here. I don't like it. I have my ID. Oh, this hour should be odd. Remember when I used to go drive buses at 5:15 in the morning?
So when I was in college, I think I talked about this in season 1, episode 7. It's kind of my diagnosis story, but I actually drove buses in college. I had a class B CDL. Saying all of this out loud right now is hilarious to me because I don't drive that much anymore. Anyway, Alec and I met at a bus driver party.
I feel really
No, it's just because I'm awake and I'm not allowed to have any. This is the most dreaded part of all of this. Till I can get in there and get some fluids and right.
Guess it's right down here.
Surgery in a storage unit.
Outpatient surgery.
What the fuck?
Right.
Feels so sus.
Surgery center. Floor.
Are people here? Yeah, there's someone in there.
Should wait till 6:30 to go in.
I agree.
Okay, right.
I feel Shelli look a little bit weak. Hey. You know what day it is? Steve the Pirate. You get that 5 decent recovery.
Dodge. Then die.
Okay. And,
Okay. Let's get into my surgical notes. Okay. I'm not going to read all of the notes. I will place them in a link to them, redacted, of course, on the show notes if you are interested in seeing what was said. So I'm not going to read the whole narrative. Okay, so it talks about what they did first. So it talks about how it began with a diagnostic hip arthroscopy. So they placed me in traction, internal rotation on the operative side. That was my right side, and gentle counter traction on the non-op side. So they used fluoroscopy to confirm that they had subluxed my hip enough to do what they needed to do. And then they used that to guide the needle placement for the cameras. Okay. So something called a beaver blade. Ew, I didn't read this before. This is really gross. Sorry, beaver blade. Okay. So then the beaver blade was then used to make portal-to-portal incision in the capsule with care to leave the ligaments intact. Once this was done, a diagnostic arthroscopy was then done that demonstrated that my labrum was torn from the 12 to 3 o'clock position. The capsule was intact with significant synoviitis. That's inflammation. I don't know what the cotyloid fossa is. I'm going to actually look up that right now. That can't be the correct definition because it says occipital bone, and that's your skull. I guess something around the area was also had inflammation. My cartilage was generally intact without significant defect. I had moderate swelling and inflammation in my ligaments. My acetabular rim, it said patient has no pincher lesion. My femoral neck had a moderate cam lesion, but it did not have a cyst. It didn't have scars or adhesions, so that is good. And my psoas tendon was intact without evidence of inflammation. So then it says, because there was significant synoviitis in both the peripheral compartment and the central compartment, including my pronunciation on this as well. They did a hip debridement, basically. So they used a radio frequency probe and inserted it into my joint and used it to debride back all of that tissue. So they did it in both the anterior and lateral portals to make sure they took care of all of that inflammation. Okay. Then there was a tear in the labrum and it was unstable to probing. So I guess they tried to probe it and they were like, no, let's not. Kind of wish I could have watched this. Do they videotape these things? Anyway, so let's see. To repair the labrum, a total of 3 anchors were used. They were drilled into you know what? If you want to read these notes, you can. I'm done trying to read these. So once the diagnostic arthroscopy, debridement, and repair were complete, the cam lesion was next addressed. The hip was taken out of traction and flexed to 40 degrees. The cam lesion was identified, and a 5-millimeter round burr was then used to resect the bone on the femoral neck till adequate space was achieved to allow for full flexion without impingement. The hip was taken through multiple planes of flexion to adequately perform resection. Care was taken to ensure a smooth transition between the bone and the cartilage. At the completion of this case, the joint was irrigated, capsuled, skin was closed with nylon, sterile dressing placed, and it has all of my medical history, discharge pace, Right, we'll get over the post-op. That was just the surgery notes. If you are interested in all of the post-op instructions, I'm going to cover those in the next episode. So they'll be posted up on with the notes, but I'm waiting until next episode to cover that because I want to. And also this is really long and I can get all of the different aids together. As you can see here, I have a few pillows here. I had far many more than that. This is something I wore a lot, compression. This is a TENS unit, which I purchased to help with some of my pain. So in the next episode, we're going to go over all of the different tools I used. Maybe I can see if I can find some of these images if you're interested. And I do have a video with the physician's assistant at my post-op that I'll include. She actually uses way better language and terminology to describe the surgical notes that I sort of just read to you. Anyway. I am not a medical professional. This is my lived experience. This is a video diary blog situation. So this is not medical advice. I'm just sharing this experience with anyone who wants to see it so they can hear it from my perspective regarding all of the different things that make having this condition complicated.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the muscle relaxer now. Awesome. Yeah. Oh, thanks, babe.
This is a ring.
Cool.
And so I was freaking out about what was going on with my legs for a second.
Can you get me some toys?
I like this.
Oh, well, this is Alice's jam. I guess she likes it too. She tends to like the feathers. There you go. Alice, come heal me. Kiki. Alice. I need a healing task. So I find sleeping on my side, obviously the opposite side of my hip, more comfy. Because when I'm on my back, I don't know what happens. Okay, bye. Okay, I'm going to make a video now to talk about what I remember so that it's documented. Because I don't know if I'm going to remember it later. Weirdest thing about when I went in there. Okay. So I'm there for like a major, it's corrected now, an extensive tear in my hip labrum, which makes, I can walk, it's just hard. Doing things that require balance and fine motor at the same time, that's trouble for me. So we get back there and we're doing the big pre-op steps, weight, height, and then they want to give me a pregnancy test, which I understand. I know I'm not pregnant. Well, I didn't. I shouldn't have been. And I'm not. But I have no mobility aid with me. And then she hands me a cup and is like, go pee in it. And that's fine. I just turning things and that kind of aiming. I did it. But that was like, at first I was like, oh, this is going to be a tough day. But she got my IV in. It hurt. I could feel it. Even once she adjusted the tape, it was good. Yeah, I just thought that was funny. Like I have no fine motor endurance. I drop stuff all the time. I can't really walk well. And I had to like go in there by myself and, gosh. For a test I knew was negative. Okay, I'm done talking now for this portion. Alice, you're supposed to be healing me. Alice. Where were a laptop? This is a trick they showed us at the hospital. You take the bag, that on your foot, and then it helps you slide the stock guide more easily. And because these are
toe list. Yep, one get right on up. Yay! So I have to wear these compression socks for how long, my dear?
I think it was 2 weeks.
2 weeks, 24/7. That sounds right. I remember that after my mom's knee replacement. That is bothering me.
So, what's it?
Shut. I know. Whatever. That was that orange stuff from the surgery. And you just pull up my little chicken calves. And yoink it out the top. Yay! Okay, I'm pretty sure I have to stop shit-talking Alice now because she has been sitting with me for at least half an hour now. Although I just petted her and now she left. So I guess I'm not doing this correctly.
She's
Very fast for a wash. Door in black.
just a little warm.
Yeah, that's why we're going now. At least now I can actually look around while I'm on a walk, because in the past I would have to only look forward, otherwise I would lose my balance.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Okay. Go backwards on that one.
Yeah. But that's why there's a seatbelt, apparently.
Oh,
You know what?
you know,
I think maybe we should. Just given that. I guess you could put me in. Okay. Babe,
what?
you had it in the wrong place. Go under here.
Oh.
Thank you. Why don't you buckle it? It's a fun adventure. Okay. That's fine. Yeah, that will. I won't launch out if we hit another. That was exciting. The kids over at the Catholic school must be on recess. Should we maybe go on the street? Because this is annoying to me.
I know. Let's go down one of those things.
All right, fine.
And they're not good. Look,
Okay.
we didn't have this problem in Philly, did we?
No. So are the tires flat?
No. The tires under there.
Oh, they are. I thought they were. What's wrong with
It's
them?
almost touching the wheel. You're going to touch the wheel
No.
to get your fingers pinched.
Hey. All right.
All right, we're going on the street now.
So now my idea is good.
We're going on the street on neighborhood.
0 cars came by while we were doing that.
I understand.
Some was aggressive.
Yeah, it is.
I don't hate it though. It's kind of nice. Nice scared.
Yeah, then back porch.
I would like to, launch. Back porch is better in the afternoon anyway.
Yes.
There's Carrie's new car.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so around the block is not good.
It's fine.
It's a lot of work for you, I think.
I need the exercise.
No. Right.
Pops over the gut. There we go. There's the workout right there. The hill.
Oh, look at how cute our house looks when you come upon it. It does look cute. Look at my cute. Sorry, so just hold it.
I'm going to have to hold the wheelchair.
No, you're not.
Okay.
I got out of it before.
Okay.
You just let me be independent and annoying.
I've been doing that for 23 years.
That's right. Yeah. What you're about to see are incisions and gross surgical yuckiness. So if you don't like looking at that, maybe fast forward.
No. Trying to get corn.
Yeah, and then you keep it close to the skin. What does it say?
It doesn't say how to take it off at all.
Well, I have special skin, so let's see. They put special tape on. Oh, this is nice tape. They did the good tape. So just kind of pull it back and keep it low to the skin. so that you don't create it. There we go. I don't want to do this every day.
Yes.
Haha.
That was hair. What's that? Some hair up.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Okay.
I'm not getting any faces. I'm getting like specifically the changing.
Oh, on the inside. That's really delicate.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can't take your gauze off. Oh, I see. There's the little plastic shirt.
Yeah, so don't pull those off. Why did I do that?
Yeah.
Stop that. I will do this.
So you do the inside.
Sword.
Right.
Stretchy skin.
Oh yeah, that did not look like it felt good.
Oh, God. You know what? Just go fast now.
Okay.
Okay, this gauze.
Little bitches. That's.
I just popped. That felt kind of good.
These are too big.
Hello. We're changing my dressings.
Yummy.
That's my piece of my leg. Ow, my leg. I don't know.
What? Yeah. It's a hurt.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Good lord.
Yeah. It's a little close to where.
Grandpa's Parkinson's is really trying to get you.
Parkinson's is not. It's just a tremor. Parkinson's is not a tremor or not the same thing.
For real? My fault.
When you have Parkinson's, you tend to have tremors. Just because you have a tremor
Does not mean you have Parkinson's.
It's kind of like the whole square rectangle. You know what I mean? If I get a tiny one right there to my lady bits, that's cool.
Yeah, like there's no more
This is it. That's what I'm saying.
no more big balls.
Is it ice time?
Yeah.
Yay, ice.
So I did have some issues with the different adhesives on my skin. Some things stuck to me too well. Some things didn't stick to me at all.
Approach how they're missing. We saw what tells me of those 2 cm things. All
They're still.
missing. Raise the balls. Whatever the instructions again.
I believe you. I have some ice also.
That tape doesn't dissolve. That was like steri strips. What did dissolve were the internal stitches. I sat on ice a lot. It was typically for about 10 minutes at a time, every 2 hours, or basically whenever I felt like it, for the first like week or two. I don't remember. I'll have to go back and look at my notes.
Okay. Today is try to take a shower day after the surgery. We are going to put saran wrap on my incisions, I think. And then I'm going to shower, and then we're going to change our dressings. I'm going to try to figure out how to get up the stairs with my crutches.
Yeah.
Like my anniversary outfit.
Easier to take off.
I was encouraged to do foot pumping, calf pumping, move my ankles around. I had to wear the compression socks. Basically, they wanted to prevent clots. They also wanted to put me on aspirin, which I did not take just because my blood pressure is already so low.
This is the stuff that they don't know. My startle reflex is so unpredictable that when it's set off, it ruins the rest of my day. The worst part is that it's reactionary to when people are trying to help me, which makes it even harder.
So if I continue to client assistance, then I know the offers will continue to decline as we're living with this